The Elder Scrolls V, also known as Skyrim, is quite the versatile game, isn't it? The game allows the players to kill any number of things with any number of methods. I mean, magical abilities alone have several different types that the player could dedicate themselves to. Restoration, conjuration, alteration, the list goes on and on. The skill of destruction spells alone have several different perks and playstyles that a player could want. However, what if I was only interested in the one destruction spell you get at the very beginning of the game? Actually, come to think of it, Skyrim has a war between an empire that wants to take over the world and a bunch of rough and rowdy rebels, which kind of reminds me of another media. So what if I put them together? Very well, challenge accepted. Welcome back to Challenge Chronicles. Today's episode, Skyrim as Emperor Palpatine. Before we begin, of course, I have to explain the premise of this run. This was an idea for a video that was suggested to me by my good friend Spark, and the concept was simple. Play through Skyrim, but you can only use the spell Sparks to attack or damage anything, and you must side with the Empire at every turn. This didn't seem that difficult at first, as Sparks is not that bad of a spell. However, this run threw a few curveballs at me that I wasn't expecting. So, without further ado, let's get started. This is nostalgic. The beginning of every Skyrim playthrough is always the same. By getting the game to fucking work. The real challenge in this chronicle came before I got Sparks, and before I had even made my character. But getting the game to fucking open, that shit was hard. I tried to boot up the original Skyrim because that's the one I play the most, but that didn't work. Even disabling all my mods still made the game crash to desktop upon launch. I then was forced to switch to Special Edition, and I had to install a few Vanilla Plus mods because fuck playing the game as the developers intended. So Special Edition seems to be doing the trick for now, and all of my mods are working. Nice! I woke up in a carriage with what is probably the most overplayed video game intro of all time.
You're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border.
Apparently I crossed the border illegally, and now the Empire is going to execute me. Jesus, imagine Border Patrol if they were just allowed to execute drug runners on the spot.
Okay, I'm now going to caution you, alright?
Degenerates like you belong on a cross.
Anyway, I got to Helgen after falling asleep in my carriage, and then I was tasked with making my character. I considered being an Imperial because, well, come on, do I have to explain? But I eventually decided on a High Elf because they start with a 20 in all magic skills and an additional 50 points in their magicka pool. I made myself look as much like a wrinkled, disheveled old man as I could and gave myself a cringe nickname. I was called to the chopping block, saw some dude's head get turned into a volleyball, and then Alduin came to my rescue. I ran through Helgen following Ralof and Hadvar, and then following Ralof through the keep. Some of you may be wondering why I didn't follow Hadvar, the Imperial, through the keep. And my answer to that goes something along the lines of this.
I was in the foothills of the Himalayas.
I got my handcuffs taken off and then hid like a little bitch in the corner while Ralof did all the work. I collected all of the armor and junk off everyone's corpses. In the torture chamber, I once again hid like a coward in this corner while Ralof killed the Imperials, and then I lockpicked this cage, and ladies and gentlemen, there it is. My only means of defending myself. Divines be praised. I also found some robes and a fitting hood for a Sith Lord of my caliber. I then continued on, killing people, and then... for God's sake, SkyUI is acting up again. So I spent a soul-sucking 20 to 30 minutes trying to find out what was wrong with SkyUI. I found out that SKSE, Skyrim Script Extender, wasn't running for whatever reason, so I told it to run. It wouldn't run for some reason, so I spent more time trying to find out why. Turns out when I installed it, it didn't even put itself in the game folder, because of course it didn't. I set the SKSE file to be in the game folder, and then I ran SKSE, and it worked. Finally, SkyUI was working. Anyway, I equipped the Spark spell and headed through the corridors. I killed some spiders, absolutely annihilated this bear before it could even do anything, and then I was off to Riverwood. The second I arrived in Riverwood, I dumped all of the junk I'd picked up onto the counter at the Riverwood trader and demanded gold. Then I bought a bunch of potions of magicka and health, and I talked to, I can't remember her name. I don't know, let's just call her Woman. So Woman told me to inform the Jarl of Whiterun, so I was off to Whiterun. I murdered a giant near Whiterun and then I entered. I ran up to Dragon's Reach and then spoke to the Jarl. He told me to talk to his wizard friend, and then his wizard friend told me to go retrieve the Dragonstone from Bleak Falls Burrow. I still, to this day, don't know why Hrothgar needs you to go get the Dragonstone. Like, what significance does it have to the story? Or is it just a pointless fetch quest to pad out the runtime? Let me know in the comments. So I was off to Bleak Falls Burrow. I murdered 2 bandits that were just kind of chilling on the mountain here, and then I took their gold. I then got to Bleak Falls Burrow, and then murdered more fellow human beings. I entered the crypt and then absolutely annihilated the bandit outlaw that was guarding this puzzle. I then cheesed a fight with the giant spider by shooting sparks at it through the door it can't go through. I turned Arvel's brain into ash and then retrieved the golden claw. I ran through the rest of Bleak Falls Burrow, just ignoring most of the Draugr, and then I was face to face with the Draugr Overlord. He tried to kill me, but I absolutely obliterated him before he could really do anything.
The attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed.
I pillaged his body and then I retrieved the Dragonstone. I returned to Whiterun and gave the Dragonstone to Hrothgar. Then I was alerted that a dragon was attacking the western watchtower. I bolted over there and then it was time to kill my first dragon. I kind of just stood back while the others did the work for me, but I got the last hit, so in Fortnite rules, I got the kill. I absorbed the dragon's soul and revealed to the world that I am the Dragonborn. I went back to Whiterun, where I sold a bunch of crap for gold, and then I returned to the Jarl. He named me the Thane of Whiterun, gave me a piece of garbage, and then told me that I had to go speak with the Greybeards, so I was off to High Hrothgar. Along the way to High Hrothgar, I met some people posing as Legion soldiers that attempted to get some money from me. And I completely obliterated them before they could get their grubby hands on me.
The attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed.
Then I started to wonder what difficulty I was at. Novice? No, this run would be way too easy on Novice. So I upped it to Adept and... What? So I upped it to Adept again and... So it turns out SkyUI has a problem with a recent patch of Skyrim Special Edition. So I had to spend another soul-sucking 10 to 15 minutes trying to figure out how to fix it. Then I found a mod that claimed to fix the difficulty persistence issue, and I was finally able to play the game on Adept. Finally! The game wouldn't be piss easy anymore. Along the way to Iverstead, I destroyed some bandits. And found this wandering bard. I asked if he was able to play the Age of Oppression, and he said I must be a rebel to request that one. I destroyed him for his insolence. I walked for a while, realized I was going the complete wrong direction, and I found Iverstead. I climbed up the stairs until I reached the part with the ice troll. I tried to lead it to this girl who was just kind of chilling, but she died in 2 seconds. So I eventually gave up and ran away. Okay, can we stop it with that clip? Just stop, okay? The bit's over. It's not funny anymore. Anyway, I reached High Hrothgar and talked to the Greybeards, and they told me that I have to complete some initiation rituals to prove myself as Dragonborn. I demonstrated the strength of my Thuum. No, this isn't failing the challenge, go fuck yourself. And then they told me to retrieve the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. So I was off. I stopped briefly at Whiterun to sell some more stuff, and a couple of cultists tried to turn my insides into outsides. The Walmart security promptly handled this incursion. I sold their belongings to Belethor, and then I was off to Ustengrav. Outside of Ustengrav, I obliterated some bandits that were just kind of chilling, and I progressed inside. I obliterated more bandits, and ran through the dungeon while zapping skeletons and Draugr. I walked straight past the Word of Power, and then I retrieved the horn of Jurgen Windcaller. That was a lie, actually. I retrieved a note from the person that retrieved the horn, summoning me to their home. So I met Delphine in Riverwood, and she told me that the end of the world was fast approaching, and that she needed my help to stop it. Dragons are coming back, and she needs the help of the Dragonborn to stop them. She told me to meet her in Kynesgrove because there's a dragon burial mound there that she predicts would come to life soon. Before going to Kynesgrove, I stopped by High Hrothgar to give the Greybeards the horn thing, and they rewarded me by screaming at me so loudly that my knees gave out. Thanks guys, that was fucking worth it, wasn't it? I found Kynesgrove and then I got a little worried. Last time I fought a dragon, there was a large number of people helping me, but this time I was only there with Delphine. And I knew that I couldn't tank a fire breath from this overgrown lizard. However, I learned something. Lightning spells, like sparks, actually deal magicka damage, meaning they drain the target's magicka. This means that if I keep my sparks concentrated on a dragon, their magicka will be drained and they can't use their breath weapon. Breath weapon, listen to me. Can you tell that I play D&D? I meant they can't use their fire breath. Anyway, I kept my sparks concentrated on Alduin's little cousin or something, and that meant he could only bite to attack me. So I just took 2 steps backwards and boom, he can't attack me at all. One teeny weeny problem with this is my magicka bar. It's not too many magicka points, so it drains in no time and takes forever to regenerate. It's fine for now, but could become a problem later.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
It took a fair bit of time to drain his massive health bar with my little pea shooter spell, but not too bad of a fight, honestly. Delphine told me that we need to get inside the Thalmor Embassy and that I need to meet her again in Riverwood to discuss details. So I went back to Riverwood, sold a bunch of crap, and I talked to Delphine again. She told me that the Thalmor must have something to do with the dragons returning, so I have to go scan some documents that they have. She said she has a contact within the ranks of the Thalmor that can help me get into a party at the Thalmor Embassy. So I went to Solitude, watched a really lame beheading, and then I met Malborn. I gave him my Sith robes to sneak into the event, and then I donned a party outfit and I was off to the embassy. I entered the party and gave a bottle of wine to a recovering alcoholic because I thought it would be funny. Then I met Malborn behind the kitchen and I grabbed my Sith robes. The Thalmor were kind of hard to take out, especially since the wizards would use sparks on me to drain my magicka, and considering that my magicka is my only means of defense, that was a problem. The problem of my small magicka bar was starting to rear its ugly head. I would have to use all of my magicka to get one of them to half health and then duck into cover and wait 4 billion years for my magicka to regenerate. I eventually got through the Thalmor and I took a Thalmor wizard's robes to use as my own because they look more Sith-like. I scanned through the intel, it said something about some guy named Esbern, and I freed a homeless man and escaped. I went back to Delphine, I told her about the intel. She was shocked to hear that the Thalmor had nothing to do with the dragons coming back, but the Esbern dude was of interest to her. She told me to go find him in the Ratway in Riften, so I travelled there. I completely ignored the Thieves Guild guy, and I went into the Ratway by myself. I got through the Ratway tunnels and I murdered more Thalmor goons. I found Esbern and waited a millennia for him to open his door. I told him that he's coming with me and he has no choice. We set off, I killed the Thalmor in my way, and then we escaped the Ratway and I travelled to Riverwood. Esbern and Delphine had a little catching up to do, and then Esbern told me to take them to Skyhaven Temple. Apparently there's some vital information there or something. Along the way to Skyhaven Temple, I fought a dragon, stopped by Fort Greymore, killed everyone inside, killed another dragon, and tried, and failed, to take on a giant. Oh shit, these guys are fast. Don't kill me, I'm the gingerbread man! I'm the gingerbread man! I'm the gingerbread man! No! Holy shit! Once I got to Skyhaven Temple, the weirdest thing happened. A dragon flew overhead and started attacking me. So I did the old routine of draining its magicka and chugging health potions. And then it decided it didn't like me anymore and started murdering the Forsworn at the temple. It took a while to work my way inside the temple, especially because that dragon's breath was enough to turn my intestines into goop. I eventually got inside though, and then I just ran past everything and left Delphine and Esbern to deal with the Forsworn because I was sick of fighting them. I did the shitty puzzle to get up to the temple and I used my blood to make a finger painting on the floor. I waited forever for Esbern to analyze Alduin's wall, and then he told me to learn of the shout Dragon Rend, because that would help us defeat Alduin. So I went to Anger from inside out, and he told me that I needed to travel to the very top of the mountain to speak to their leader to learn the shout. I reached the summit and talked to Parthenax, who is a dragon, I guess. Sure, why not? He tested me to see if I'm worthy. No, this isn't failing the challenge, go fuck yourself. And then he told me to look for an Elder Scroll to learn the Dragon Rend shout, because only the creators of the shout know its words. I was told that only the College of Winterhold would know about an Elder Scroll, so I went there. I took a while to get into the college because a stupid fucking dragon kept attacking the village and distracting the girl on the bridge from letting me in. I asked the librarian if he knew anything about Elder Scrolls, and he told me to visit an old crazy hermit who lives in an igloo. Cool. I went to Septimus and he told me to go to Alftand. My least favorite part of the game. So I procrastinated. Yep, that's right. I took 2 steps into Alftand, and then after seeing that it took 2 minutes for me to take down a tiny dwarven spider drone, I dipped. I thought a while about how to grind up my destruction skill so I wouldn't take 4 billion years to kill anything. How would I be able to deal more damage with such a basic spell? Then I thought, hey, what if I don't need to up the damage of the spell, but decrease the amount of magicka it uses? What if I just had more magicka? and so I once again turned to the ancient texts of XP grinding. I went to Dawnstar and waited for the Khajiit merchant to get there. Then I went over near the mines and reached through the fabric of reality, where I was able to find her belongings. I took all the enchanted shit, weapons, gear, and soul gems. Then I went to an enchanting table and learnt as many enchants as I could and enchanted as many items as I could to raise my enchanting skill. This leveled me up rapidly. When I started doing this exploit, I was level 8. After about 45 minutes of grinding, I was level 12, and my enchanting skill was at 60 all the way up from 15. Every time I leveled up, I chose to increase my magicka, and I chose perks in the enchanting tree to make my enchants more effective. After a while of me doing this, I purchased a ring, a hood, and a necklace, and enchanted them all with Fortified Destruction. Additionally, I also found this robe, which makes it so that destruction spells cost 15% less to cast and magicka regenerated 75% faster. So, all in all, I had a necklace that made destruction spells cost 17% less, a ring that makes them cost 19% less, a hood that makes them cost 19% less, and my new Sith robes that make them cost 15% less to cast, and my magicka regenerates 75% faster. Also, I now had 250 points of magicka. I could now do the spark spell pretty much indefinitely. I truly was a real Sith Lord now, and no one could stop me. I then stopped by Ustengrav again to pick up that shout that I missed because it was the Become Ethereal shout, one that I would need to speedrun Alftand. I went back to Alftand a changed man, and after annihilating this spider droid, I now thought the game was a little bit too easy. So I cranked up the difficulty to expert. Then I got my dick chopped off by a cat on fentanyl, so I sheepishly put the difficulty back down on adept. I ran through Alftand to not having trouble with the spider droids anymore, although the sphere droids gave me a little bit of trouble. Then I got to the bit with the Thalmor. No, not the Thalmor, the Thalmor. Apparently they are vastly different things. I used the Become Ethanol shout to fall all the way down the huge staircase without taking damage, and then I fucked up the Thalmor down the bottom. It still took a while to kill something with my lightning, but at least now I can zap them indefinitely and heal myself with the healing spell because I now essentially had infinite magicka. I ran past the Dwarven Centurion because fuck that, I ain't fighting that, and then I went through the Jellyfish Cave. I really hate this place. I ran past all the Thalmor and then I got to the Tower of Amzark. Thank God. I googled the solution to the puzzle because I couldn't remember, and then I finally got my hands on the Elder Scroll. After getting out of Alftand, I returned to the Throne of the World to read the Elder Scroll. Paarthurnax watched as I read the Elder Scroll at the Time Wound, and I was transported back in time to watch the original banishment of Alduin. I watched the 3 Nord heroes take on Alduin, and I learned the Dragon Wrench out by hearing them say the words, and then I was transported back to the present. It's time to fight Alduin. Alduin told me that he was angry at me for existing and that he wanted to game end me. So I used my Dragon Wrench shout to ground him and I laid into him with my Sith Lightning powers. It was pretty easy, considering I could now zap him forever, meaning he could never fire breath me, and he also couldn't fly away because I kept using Dragon Rend. Eventually he got fed up with my Sith antics and he tucked his tail between his legs and took off for Sovngarde. The end, ladies and gentlemen, is in sight. I talked to Anger again and he told me my only way to catch up to Alduin would be to catch another dragon, so I should ask the Jarl of Whiterun if I could use his palace to trap a dragon. I relayed this to the Jarl, who said that he wouldn't take such a huge risk unless the civil war pissed off for a bit. So I went and talked to Jarl Ulfric and General Tullius about meeting together at a peace summit at High Hrothgar. The two sides of the civil war met at High Hrothgar to childishly squabble about material values while the world was ending. I sided with the Empire at every available moment because I have no interest in supporting dirty rebels. And Ulfric had no choice but to accept for the time being. Now that the boring peace summit was over, Esbern told me that Paarthurnax was actually a war criminal.
Bad news.
What?
Paarthurnax is a war criminal.
Oh no! Anyway.
And then he told me to shout to summon a dragon. I went to Whiterun and we went ahead with a plan. I summoned Odoving and told him to take me to Skoldarfen. And he did. What a good lad. Once I got to Skoldarfen, I once again used the Become Unreal Engine 3 shout to run past all of the dragons and Draugr and whatnot. I reached the door puzzle in the dungeon, and I was going to do the puzzle and then run past all the Draugr, but my Sith tendencies eventually got the better of me.
Power. Unlimited power! Die! Die!
I then got out of the dungeon, ran straight past the Dragon Priest, and jumped into Sovngarde. I ran up to the Hall of Valor, and I had a little bit of trouble proving my worth to Sun, but I got there in the end. I met all the Nord heroes, and they agreed to help me defeat Alduin once and for all. By the way, you can actually find Jurgen Windcaller in the Hall of Valor. That's pretty neat, actually. I genuinely didn't know that. He doesn't have much to say, but like, he's there. Anyway, we gathered outside and used the Clear Skies shout to clear the mist, and out he came. I used the Dragonrend shout to keep him on the ground while I blasted him with my Sith powers. The main damage dealer in this fight was not Alduin, but the rocks falling from the sky that occasionally smashed my forehead open. However, I kept focused, and after about 4 billion years of laying into him, Alduin was defeated. The World Eater was dead. Sun transported me back to the world of the living, and I had a little bit of a photo shoot to celebrate at the throat of the world. And that's it. That's a wrap. I just completed Skyrim as Emperor Palpatine. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button. Alternatively, if you hated it, go ahead and hit the dislike button. And feel free to go down into the comments and tell me all the other ways I'm a total fuckhead. If you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's totally free, you can always unsubscribe later. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching Challenge Chronicles, and I'm out of here.